Let's talk about the big industries that literally build our world. Construction, property, water. They're all going through this huge technological change. But here's the catch. The very system we rely on to get people skilled up for these jobs, well, it's kind of stuck in the past. And that's creating a serious gap. Okay, so this graph tells a really fascinating story. That green line skyrocketing upwards, that's the demand for short, sharp, specific courses. And that blue line heading down, that's people signing up for the old-school, long-haul qualifications. The takeaway is pretty clear, right? People are voting with their feet for speed and relevance over traditional credentials. And here's the number that's really driving this whole conversation, 60%. That is how many employees say their job has changed, not a little, but substantially in just the last 5 years. And it's all because of new tech and new ways of working. I mean, the ground is literally shifting beneath us, and it is happening fast.
So, all of this brings us to the main event, the core problem. We have a system that is seriously out of sync with the world it's supposed to be preparing people for. Now, this isn't about pointing fingers at teachers or at industry. The problem is the system itself. Honestly, it's like we designed a steam engine for a world that now runs on bullet trains. It was built for a much slower, more predictable time, and it just can't keep pace with how fast things are moving today.
All right, let's get specific. The Build Skills Review really dug into all this, and what they found are some pretty serious cracks in the foundation. So let's break down exactly where things are going wrong. To really get this, you need to understand that today's worker needs 3 types of skills. First, you've got primary skills. Those are the core hands-on parts of a job, and our training system is actually okay at teaching those. Then there are platform skills, using specific software, which you often just learn on the job. But the real breakdown, it's right in the middle, with what are called enabling skills. Things like digital literacy, leadership, collaboration. These are absolutely critical, and it's where the system is really failing us. And look, this isn't just some theory. This is what you hear when you actually talk to leaders in the industry. This quote just nails the frustration. They're looking at the official curriculum and seeing skills that are totally obsolete. The stuff being taught just doesn't match the reality of the job site anymore. And here is the cold, hard data to prove it. When employers were asked, what are your biggest skill gaps? Well, the answers were overwhelming. 93% said digital and data skills. 91% said leadership. Does that sound familiar? These are the exact enabling skills we were just talking about, the ones the formal system is just not delivering. So, why is there such a huge gap? This timeline shows you the brutal reality. A new piece of tech comes along, a need is identified, and then the clock starts ticking on this long, bureaucratic process of consultation and drafting and endorsement. By the time the very first person graduates with that new skill, more than 3 years might have gone by. By then, the world has moved on, and the system is just stuck playing catch-up. So when you put it all together, the failures are pretty clear. The system is losing its relevance. The whole update process is way too slow and rigid. It's not delivering the critical skills employers are crying out for. And because of all that, people are just going elsewhere, to this huge, unregulated market to get the skills they actually need. The whole thing is just misaligned with the modern economy. Okay, so that's the problem. It's huge, it's systemic. But this is where the conversation takes a really exciting turn. We're at a turning point, moving away from just diagnosing the problem and toward finding a whole new kind of solution. This is the question we've got to ask ourselves, right? If the old way of doing things, with these rigid qualifications and painfully slow updates, just can't keep up, then what's the alternative? How do we build something that actually works for today? And here it is. This is the big idea that changes the whole conversation. The answer isn't another policy or another committee or another framework. What's missing is infrastructure, a foundational layer for the whole system to operate on. And that brings us to the solution on the table, a new kind of digital plumbing, if you will, called the Workforce Education and Capability Infrastructure, or WEC for short. This is all about building a much smarter foundation for the future of work. So what is WEC? The most important thing to know is what it's not. It is not more red tape. It's not another layer of regulation. Think of it more like the power grid or the internet. It's a shared utility that everyone can plug into. It's a common language that makes all of your skills, no matter where or how you learned them, visible, trusted, and easy to carry with you throughout your career. This slide just shows the before and after so perfectly. On the left, you've got the old system. It's a tangled mess, right? A bunch of fragmented roads leading nowhere. On the right, that's the WEC-enabled future.
a clear, connected superhighway. We go from inconsistent recognition to portable skills, from slow, subjective opinions to fast, evidence-based results that employers can actually have confidence in.
So how does it actually change the game? Well, WeSee creates this common grid where skills from anywhere, on the job, in a formal course, from online learning, can all be seen and understood together. It finally makes that whole idea of recognition of prior learning, getting credit for what you already know, actually work the way it was supposed to. No more wasting time and money relearning things you've already mastered. It just cuts out the duplication and speeds everything up.
And this is the real killer app. For the first time, we can get past just making recommendations or debating theories. With this infrastructure, we can get back hard data, real evidence. We can actually measure if things are getting faster, if we're reducing wasted effort, and if people are moving through their careers more smoothly. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. For the better part of a century, we've built a world where your career path is largely defined by a piece of paper, by your formal credentials. But what if we could build something new? An infrastructure where it's your actual, provable skills that truly define your future. That's the promise we're talking about here.